The Cardinals finally released their non-roster invites, which actually secretly announced a signing that they made that no one knew we did. And lastly, a look at where Brendan Donovan ranks according to MLB Network's computer machine, The Shredder. Thanks for tuning in to the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. My name is Andrew Toysher. Folks, 15 days until pitchers and catchers report for spring training. You know we got to get ready for it, and we'll start with, fittingly, the non-roster invites that finally got released from the St. Louis Cardinals. We were like one of the last teams to do it, and I was saying in earlier episodes, is this indicating something potentially with Brendan Donovan or potential additions? Whatever the reason was, maybe it was just Chaim Bloom, his first time doing this, and this is when he'll always do things. Regardless, 27 players not on the Cardinals' 40-man roster will be invited to spring training, and we got the list finally released. Just again, by the way, I mentioned this previously, these are non-roster invites. Everyone on the 40-man roster automatically gets an invite to spring training, and then we are allowed to add more guys on top of that. We are inviting 27 players this year. 8 players who were acquired this offseason will be new names to us, so if you're just now tuning in to St. Louis Cardinals, welcome back. We're here to cover your offseason for you. These are names you probably didn't know because they were signed in the offseason or prior to the start of this upcoming season. Those 8 guys are right-handed pitcher Scott Blewett, right-handed pitcher Skylar Hales, first baseman Blaze Jordan, right-handed pitcher Garrison Moreno, left-handed pitcher Jared Suster, outfielder Nelson Velasquez, catcher Andy Yerzy, and left-handed pitcher Bruce Zimmerman. They were acquired in a variety of ways, some of them trades, some of them signings. Regardless, those guys are new to the ball club. You'll see those names this spring as they got invites to spring training with the Cardinals. And I want to, on top of some of those guys we can get into later, maybe we'll see how they produce in spring, but there are some players who are on the non-roster invite list who really have a good shot at making the big league roster, and I wanted to focus on those guys mostly. I just think it makes the most sense. The other guys, we may never hear their name again. So the 3 guys that I think we need to know the most going into spring training, and maybe I'm wrong and other guys break camp, but the 3 guys on the non-roster invite list I think have the best shot and we need to be watching. Of course, number 1, J.J. Weatherholt. He was not on the 40-man roster, heading into this last year. He just been playing his first year in the minors, hadn't made his way onto the 40-man yet. By all means, unless J.J. Weatherholt has a terrible spring training or Chaim Bloom comes out and says otherwise, the assumption is that J.J. Weatherholt will be a St. Louis Cardinal on opening day, and he will be playing most likely third base with Brendan Donovan still on the team and seeming more likely to stay there at second base. So we know JJ. We're going to be watching him close. I hope he doesn't feel too much pressure because I know he knows he's got to know everyone's watching him. So JJ, best wishes to you. Hopefully you break camp unless something crazy happens. Another guy who may have come up last year had the season gone better and he not suffered some injuries, Quinn Matthews, right-handed pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. We knew that he was a guy we were watching. He was the minor league pitcher of the year in 2024, and in 2025, we really thought we might see him along with Gordon Graceffo and Michael McGreevy. We saw those guys come up, and Quinn Matthews was on a similar path, but we saw at the beginning of the year he got hurt for a good chunk of the first half of the season, and then when he returned and stepped up to AAA for the first full year, he struggled quite a bit. And, not terribly, still an ERA below 4, but a guy who needs to prove something in spring, who could prove enough to make the big league roster, but has to have an outstanding spring, most likely, in order to make the big league roster. He's not projected to make it, at least at this point, according to credible sites like Fangraphs. So Quinn Matthews could make it if he shoves in spring. We'll see what happens. Definitely a name to watch. Another guy I want to talk about and do a little bit more of a deep dive into is Ean Henderson. Here's a guy that probably has not been mentioned by most people covering the Cardinals to this point, other than in slight passing, because he was the 2025 Texas League Pitcher of the Year, being in Double-A last year. And he had a phenomenal season. He's been phenomenal every season with the Cardinals. He's now pitched 2 minor league seasons with the Cardinals. He was drafted in 2023, finally pitched in 24 and 25 as a normal for an 8th round pick, which he was out of Fresno State. Now 23 years old, it looks like he has a real shot at making the 40-man roster and breaking camp potentially with a 26-man active list. So who is he? He's, again, a left-handed pitcher out of Fresno State. A guy that's, again, out of the 8th round who's come out of basically nowhere and has shown excellent strikeout stuff for his relative prospect rankings. Before this most recent update we should be getting from MLB Pipeline, he was the Cardinals' 17th ranked prospect. MLB Pipeline might put him right back there, but again, they haven't completed their full 30-man rankings as they always do, so we haven't got that officially yet, although we do have the top 100. Ean was not in the top 100 despite being the best pitcher in Double-A, at least in the Texas League. He struck out 134 guys last year in 132 innings while only walking 51 batters. That's incredible command, incredible strikeout stuff. According to his MLB Pipeline profile, they said he has a fastball that touches 96, and that was one of the biggest things he had to work on as a prospect was he doesn't look like the biggest guy. I believe he's like 6'2". Pitchers get really big, especially the guys who typically throw hard, and he's added some velocity to that fastball, and he's got a 6 sweeping curve that it looks deadly. It nails the back foot of right-handed pitchers and breaks far, far away from left-handed hitters. So exciting stuff for him. He's got a career 2.44 ERA through 239 career innings in the minor leagues. I'm glad he made the roster. I would be shocked if he didn't make it because that's insane numbers for a guy who came out of college and has done nothing but shove the entire time. So keep an eye on Ean Henderson. I don't know what role he could have for the Cardinals. I don't know if they're open to him snagging a rotation spot. So I hope we don't do the terrible thing we do where we have a guy go up and down playing in our bullpen. I want to, especially in a time, and Bloom's kind of alluded to this, where everything's about the core. I hope they just let him find his spot in the rotation and wait till then and let him keep shoving in the minors because we have nothing to gain from him being good in our bullpen, then some experience, of course, but then we're going to have to lengthen him out anyway. Regardless, Quinn Matthews, Ean Henderson, a couple of young, exciting pitchers who I'm excited to see on the Cardinals big league roster. We'll do more deep dives into Henderson and Matthews in the coming days, don't you worry. Notable guys not on the list for the Cardinals non-roster invites. Liam Doyle will not be breaking into spring training camp with everybody else. He's only played one game in Double-A, which makes sense, but due to his pedigree, Keith Law recently ranked him as a top 30 prospect in baseball, and he's a little bit older because he's in college. I thought there was a shot. Didn't make it, though. Neither did Brandon Clark, who's a notable prospect we landed this offseason, as well as Raniel Rodriguez will also not be making the spring training roster. Makes sense. He's 19 years old, just reached high A. Despite his excitement around him, it kind of makes sense why he didn't make it. Moving on from there, a guy who no one knew the Cardinals signed before we put out this non-roster invite list, which is absolutely insane. Nelson Velasquez, a outfielder / DH right-handed hitter, is on the St. Louis Cardinals. And again, we found out through the release of the non-roster invites, which is an excellent time to figure it out. He's 27 years old, and he was most recently released by the Kansas City Royals. He loved Missouri so much, he'll be staying with the Cardinals. I'm sure that's what that was. I believe a Puerto Rico native. At least he was playing some time with Puerto Rico. Definitely not from the United States at the very least, from Latin America. He hit 202 through 33 AAA games before being released by the Royals. And after that, last year, he went to the Mexican League where he absolutely shoved. He had a 284, 329, 554 slash, which got enough attention from the Pittsburgh Pirates where they signed him to their AAA team and, finds his way onto the St. Louis Cardinals with a spring training invite. No guarantees beyond that, but he'll have a shot at making the 40-man roster and sticking around. And what he has to offer is power. He came up with the Chicago Cubs in 2022 and had a great 2023 with the Royals and the Cubs, having gone over to Kansas City from there. In that season, through limited time, just 53 games, he had an 888 OPS with 17 home runs again in 53 games. Dude has excellent power, at least through that stretch there. But outside of that, his career has just been horrible. They had that one good stretch with the Royals and the Cubs, and outside of that, it's just been bad. He had a terrible 2024 with the Royals, which is obviously why in 2025, he made spring training, had a terrible start to 25, and they cut him loose because he just had that one good stretch. They let him go, and a guy who's running out of years of control. So not worth holding on to there. His career numbers are through 552 at-bats, which is basically a full season, a little bit under what would be a maxed out season, a full-time starter, but whatever. 552 at-bats, 31 home runs through 552 at-bats with a slash line of 212, 286 on base, 433 slug, which is good for a 719 OPS. I think that's a guy that's worth signing and seeing what's happening. Again, he wasn't on anyone's team. We have no commitments to him, and we'll see how he does in spring training. A guy with serious right-handed power in the outfield, which we desperately needed. So maybe this is the veteran that Bloom's been talking about. I wouldn't think so. I think, he very well could be cut by the end of spring. So I don't think this is the bat that Bloom has been talking about, but with potential to be that bat, not necessarily with the experience, but that's a lot of raw power for a guy that we can maybe figure out with our new found system and data analysis that Bloom has brought in that's made guys like Joshua Baez become the prospect that they're supposed to be. So it's worth a try. Frankly, that slash line, that kind of power, kind of sounds like Nolan Gorman. Not quite as good as his numbers, which I know we were frustrated with Gorman. Gorman's had higher highs, but it's interesting enough with Mr. Velasquez. I like the signing. See what happens. May never hear the name again, but when you see Nelson Velasquez in spring training, that's who that guy is. Welcome to the Cardinals. Last thing I want to talk about, I know I keep talking Brendan Donovan, but more stuff keeps coming out about it that I feel I need to relay to you guys. I feel like that's why you tune in. You're welcome. Here's more things. Let's get mad again. We knew he got snubbed from the top 100 players right now in Major League Baseball, but that was a list made by human beings who are full of flaws. And luckily, computers, robots, gave Brendan Donovan the recognition he deserves. AI overlords, whenever you eventually take over, hear my nice words. MLB Network has a release of the top 10 players at each position as determined mostly by their computer system analysis that they call the, quote, shredder. I don't know what it stands for. I don't know why they call it that. I'm sure it's an acronym. Regardless, the first position group they went over was second baseman because, frankly, it's the most boring. It's one of the worst positions in baseball, top down. But still, Brendan Donovan is the fourth best second baseman in Major League Baseball, according to the Shredder, despite not making the MLB Top 100 list. The guys ahead of him on the Shredder list, so numbers 1, 2, and 3, were Ketel Marte. Makes sense. Jazz Chisholm, second best player in second base in baseball, and Nico Horner just ahead of him. Behind him, who ended up making the top 100 list, were Jose Altuve, who was 81st, and Bryce Terang, who was actually 10th according to the Shredder, but 62nd according to the human flawed individuals who dared not rank Brendan Donovan top 100. I mostly kid. I don't think this list isn't that important, but I think it's worth noting. I think this is an example of why Brendan Donovan hasn't been moved. Computer system data analysis says Brendan Donovan's actually is the fourth most valuable second baseman in all of baseball. While people who know a ton about baseball, I'm not disregarding them. I don't think I know more baseball than those MLB individuals research team that made the top 100 list, but the computer says in deep analysis, Brendan Donovan's actually this good, and human beings see him as this. And I'm guessing that's why trades have gone sideways. We got more reports out of Robert Murray from Fansided that he's an MLB insider who had to say, my inclination is that Brendan Donovan probably stays, but I can't rule anything out by any means. More and more ideas that he's going to be sticking around because of this value disparity. I'm guessing it's kind of like, if I'm a big fantasy football guy, I don't know if you guys are too. You ever try to get a sneaky good player from somebody and you're hoping that the guy you're trading for or trading with, the owner of that team doesn't know how good he is? I'm kind of guessing that's what's happening here. I think teams reached out to them and was like, well, sneakily, Brendan Donovan's actually pretty good, but I'm hoping the Cardinals will give us a value on him. I'm guessing that's kind of what's happening here. Again, I think the Shredder versus the MLB Top 100 right now rankings kind of show that disparity in his value. But you guys let me know. Where do you think Brendan Donovan ranks in all of baseball? Do you think Brendan Donovan makes a big league club? You have hope for Nelson Velasquez? Again, it's a weird profile of a player. And lastly, go look at Ean Henderson. Dude looks like a stud. I'm kind of excited for him in the future. Thank you for tuning in to the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. Again, my name is Andrew Teuscher. Don't forget to subscribe, folks. I'm here to cover your team all year. I'm in the comments section. Let me know what you guys want to see going forward. Appreciate you.